Okay, are there questions? Councilmember Constant.
Not questions as much as comments. And I know there's been a lot of discussion regarding these, the council salary, and I've done a little bit of research and analysis on this, and I just wanted to point out some facts to my colleagues before we get to the point where we're going to vote. And first of all, I know in context of the budget situation that some people are hesitant to move forward with this, but we all know that the amount of time that we put into this job is significant. I think 60 or 65 hours would be probably a minimum work week in my book. And I know that it's such that I decided not to continue my business at all just because I don't have the time to give it any attention. And it really is something that if you're going to do this job and you're going to do it correctly, you have to put a lot of time into it. And just taking on the very low side and saying perhaps 60 hours a week is an average that we may work, and taking out the vacation time that we get, the approximately 6 weeks between the month of July and the time in December, and kind of going through and backing out what we would actually be being paid if we were paid hourly. It's the equivalent of a job that pays $45,000 a year. And then if you factor in the overtime that you would get if you were hourly, it brings it up to the $75,000. And I took some time today and I pulled out the classifications in the city that $45,000 is where it sits. And there's, I think, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There's only 13 positions in the city that pay less. And I know that this has been compared in the Salary Setting Commission report, and I believe in the Mercury News articles, that $75,000 is equivalent to an entry analyst position in the city. But I might remind you that that is their salary for 40 hours a week, not for 60, 65, or what I most usually spend is 70 hours a week. And I think we need to take that into account. And if you don't feel that we should be doing this for the individuals, I ask that you consider doing this for the position, being the position of a council member. We have several council members that will be termed out shortly, and other people will be looking to run in their positions. And I know from when I ran, there were people in my district that were potential opponents that didn't run because they could not afford to run at that job, at that level of salary. And we really need to make sure that as we go forward, that we create an environment that allows us to attract talented, capable people to run this city. I know we tout often that we're the 10th largest city in the nation, and with that comes a lot of responsibility. The responsibility of a budget that's over $3 billion between operating and capital, the responsibility of 7,000 some employees. And I think that we do need to make sure that, number one, we can not only attract the right people to run for office, but that they can maintain a home in their district. I know some of the districts have very high median home prices, mine being one of them, District 10 being significantly high. We have basically made it so that someone like me, who's representative of a typical family in San Jose, cannot afford to be a council member. And that is something that troubles me. We need to be able to have, in the future, people that represent probably the largest demographic in our city are people, working families, people who have children. And quite frankly, at the rate of pay of a council member, if you had 2 or 3 kids, you qualify for low-income housing. And that's something that you have to keep in mind. And also, I want to remind you that I know some talk has been about, well, let's just do an adjustment for cost of living. A cost of living adjustment from 2002 till now would be significantly higher than what we're looking at. This is only 2% per year, which is lower than the CPI any year during those years. If you adjusted the wages of $75,000 from 2002 with the current CPI, it would bring the salary to over $86,000. And I pulled out several different indexes, including the San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose Bay Area working CPI, and it's higher than that. I think that this is something we need to do. We know that there's been 5 years, 6 years of deficits, and we also know that there's 5 or 6 more years of deficits. This being the lowest of all, is it prudent for us to say that over a period of 10 years, there'll be no raise for the council? Will we be able to get anybody to run for city council 2 terms from now if they're making the equivalent of 2002 or prior wages? The buying power during that 10-year period would take the salary and decrease it by almost 50% in buying power. It'd be almost impossible unless you want to make this a retired millionaires club for people to be able to run for this office. And then I know because of the deficit, we have to look at how this affects the general fund. And I am going to make a suggestion here, and I'll be willing to put it in a motion. We have significant amount of carryover dollars in the council general fund. This, I don't know the exact number, but it's approximately 10%. The wage increase is about 10% of what the rollover is projected to be. We can do what's right for the office and do what's right for the future council members, accept this raise as proposed by absorbing it in the council general fund and not impacting the general fund 1 penny. And I think that's the appropriate thing for us to do. I don't think that we should continue now and for the next 5 years to ignore this and defer it like we've done with our roadway infrastructure and with our water pollution control plant and with our GASB liabilities. I think this is something we need to do. So with all those words, I would like to make a motion to accept with the condition that it comes out of the council general fund and does not impact the general fund budget.